recording. Shavua Tov and Chodesh Tov to everyone. Rosh Chodesh Mar Cheshvan. We've actually traversed, or either went through, or whatever you want to call it, Esh Tishrei. We consumed it. It went through us. We went through it. Whichever way you want to call it. And I don't know about you, but Tishrei is hard work. Tishrei is hard work. I mean, especially if you go to Uman, even if you don't go to Uman, it's really hard work. You have it's a culmination of a month and 21 days. It's almost like 2 months of really intense time. So tonight starts a month that is devoid of any holidays, to the point it's called Mar Cheshvan, bitter Cheshvan. Today we will, of course, get to Sichos Haran, so let me just share the Sicha. There it is. Very short, but let's have some good time with it. We are holding by Sicha Lamed Zayin that apicorsis is called masa. It's called a load. Rashi wrote on the word masachem, your load. Malamed shayu be'em apikorsim. There were heretics amongst them. Al ken kshenoseh la'tzadik, when a person travels to the tzadik, umashlich me'olav masoy gedoilo, he is chucking off himself a huge load. Kimachar shenosea, since the person is traveling, he's already traveling to the tzaddik. Kvar yesh lo emuna, he already has emuna. Shehu hepech apikosos. So let's view what Rabbeinu is saying here. He says a load, apicorsis is a load. That's the first thing Rabbeinu says. The second thing is Rabbeinu says that once a person goes to the tzaddik, he is chucking off the load of himself. Like somebody who's carrying a big load on his shoulder, and he just, chucks it off. So when we look at it, we have to find out why is apicorsis called a load. Rabbeinu says in Torah Zayin, second Chelek Likutei Moharan, that the Avera is called a load. Here Rabbeinu says that apicorsis is called a load. We have to understand why he means that. And then when he says that when he travels to the tzaddik, he's throwing the load of himself. Because once he's already traveling, he already has a munah, which is the hepech of apicorsis. So it begs, to ask. Why do you have to go into the tzaddik? Why don't you say anything? Making kiddush, putting on film. Why won't you say that already does it? Why dafka going to the tzaddik? This is an act of emunah to the extent that it rids the person of the load. So we need to understand why dafka that. Al pi pashat, you know, people have a saying that it takes a lot of hard work to be lazy. In order to be lazy, there's so many things you need to do. I'm busy, I can't, and I argue with this and that, whatever it is, just not to do what I was told to do. We think that being lazy, which is equal to being saddled with apicorsis, is that for a person to be lazy, lazy is hard work because lazy entails a horrendous effort of a load of humiliation. It's a very, very hard thing. I mean, when people tell you, why don't you do this? Go ahead and pick this and take it out, or whatever it is. To say no is counterintuitive to the human nature. People by nature want to say yes. To say no, meaning that you're being confrontational. To say no means that you are erecting a wall. To say yes is something that comes very natural, and even when people's own natural stinginess, natural, feeling being taken advantage of is coming up, nevertheless, it's very easy to bring it down. They were tested, they made research on when people were standing on line back in the days when the offices had copier machines. Remember? Last century, offices had copiers, and people would stand on line to make copies. And if somebody, so they made a survey, and somebody wanted to cut in. If somebody would cut in without saying anything, it's almost automatic that people will start, grumbling and saying, and hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Well, the line starts here, whatnot. If the person would ask, can I please cut in? They say about 50% of the people would say, okay. In other words, just asking to cut in would already, excuse me, just 1 second, hold on. Just by asking, it would already give the people the out, at least half the people, the out, not to get confrontational and say, just go ahead. Then they found out that if that person said, can I please cut in because I have a bus to catch, 95% of the cases, the people will say, yes, you can cut in. because people feel good about saying yes. Then they made another test, which you would find hard to believe. He asked, may I cut in because my shoes are dirty? In other words, the reason had nothing to do with the fact that he needs to finish. The number went from 95, yes, to 92% saying yes. Now, there's the reason that didn't matter. As long as what we learn in Torah Chav, the natural wickedness, the natural rishus, and the person was subdued. Was given a little. The person glad to go ahead. You can see it. Anybody who drives, you see if somebody tries to cut in, then people will go together with you and they won't let you come in. But if the person tries to come in, just puts his hand out of the window and says, do me a favor, would you let me to come in? It's very rare that people won't let him come in. Okay, you're asking, go ahead. Yes, you can come in. Emunah is a natural state of being for a human being. When a person lives in Emunah, a person doesn't have to carry the worries and the anxiety and whatever it is that is the fate of all those who have no emunah. And he said, you find people with emunah that are anxious and, they behave selfishly and so forth and so on. The answer is because in those points, because, they have no emunah. The emunah is lacking. Whenever the emunah is lacking, comes anxiety. I'll never forget years ago, and I mean like many years ago, like 40 some odd years ago, there was a guy who was like a religious person, if you can call it a religious person. At least he had he had a covering on his head. And I was by my mother's house, and there was a television over there. And they had a symposium, a philosophical symposium about the role of bad, of pain in the world. One of the panel members was a philosopher, one of the panels was this, and one of the I won't bother you with the nonsense that they were saying over there, but that particular person said a sentence which, when you repeat it, you say this is like a fantastically ridiculous sentence. He said, listen, there's no doubt about the fact that the person, a believing person, is a person with a problem. I.e., he has a lot of explaining to do. Why he's going through pain and this and that. And I've come up with all kinds of excuses. So I told that sentence to Reb Simcha Bar Lev, and he laughed, and he said, a person who believes doesn't have emunah. I mean, a person who believes doesn't have a problem. It's a person who doesn't believe who has the problem. And it's a person who is supposedly a believer and really doesn't believe. He's the one with the problem. If you really believe, you have no problem. From Avram Yitzchak Kamel, Zecher Tzal Livrocha, saying what his father was niftar, he was a bocher. And he said, that one of the men that came to visit him during the Shiva said to him, for a person who believes, there are no kashas. For a person who doesn't believe, there are no terutzim. A person who believes, there are no questions. For a person who doesn't believe, there are no answers. And Rabbeinu says that when a person lives life without emunah, it means that the very second that something happens to him, which doesn't stem with what he wants, doesn't fit with what he wants, he has nothing to rejuvenate himself, to inject himself with strength, to give him chizuk. What can he do? That's it, it's finished. Rabbeinu says if a person has emunah, he knows that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves you like crazy. So B'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going, if a person is in pain or whatever, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take it away. B, it's for my good. It wipes away the residue of sins. A lot of different things. We have emunah, but say, okay. And you for sure remember the example that I've been given many times over about the needle. When somebody is being pricked with a needle for no reason, or at least no reason he can perceive, he freaks out. But if the prick of the needle is to take a blood sample, that's no big deal. There's no suffering involved. There's a little objective pain. But the minute that that person who's being pricked perceives that this is without reason, the objective pain, as it were, is magnified psychologically many, many times over. And the tremendous suffering involved. This is a state of what you call you're carrying a load. Apikosis means that you're all on your own. You may show to the world that the going is good. You may try, when you laugh very, very hard on jokes that are not that funny. And you keep on trying to laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh, because the minute you'll stop laughing, you'll start screaming. Being in a state of apikosis is extremely painful. Extremely painful. There's a lot of anger. And it's a situation that feeds upon itself. it just doesn't work. So we understand what is the union of why, because it is called a load, at least from one end of things. Why is going to the tzaddik an act of such a emunah that actually chucks this load off your back and not something else? It's because any other mitzvah falls under the category of this is something that we do. In our club, this is what we do. When we go to play golf, we are wearing temashant or whatever it is, a golf, whatever, golf shoes and a golf hat, and this is what we do. When you go to a gala, you're wearing a tuxedo and I don't know what. It's just it's what we do. There are a lot of things that you do on rut. Putting on film, praying, even learning. But to go to the tzaddik, first of all, I'm not talking about going to the tzaddik whereas it's a sport. We're not talking about when going to the Rebbe. We're not talking about the Rabbeinu. We're going to a Rebbe. Anybody who goes to a Rebbe. We're going to a Rebbe. Okay, this is your club. It's what you do. You can go to the Tish, whatever it is, and if the Rebbe goes visiting, whatever it is, so there's a whole entourage, and then young bucks, driving their cars in front of everybody, and there's a whole escapade going on with that. So Rebbe goes on vacation, and who's going to go with him? It's a whole, he's the queen bee. So everybody, So again, it's a matter of hierarchy. Who's closer, who's further, who gets to be this, who gets to be that. But when you're going to the tzaddik emes, you're going because you're going to the tzaddik emes, and you have to go through it. It takes effort. It takes effort. Doesn't come easy. Any nesiyah to the tzaddik takes effort. By the way, Rabbi Statman, I think that Rabbi Moshe Ellis has a problem of getting on. I think he's using the wrong. Got an email saying that he's waiting to get in. If you want to call him and let him know, maybe it'll be a good idea. Be it as it may, when you are traveling to the tzaddik, it's an act of extra emunah for two reasons. First of all, it's not one of those mitzvahs that says you should go to the tzaddik emes. It doesn't say that in Shulchan Aruch. It says, yes, chayav odom la'akbil pnei rabba baregel, but it's not a, okay, see. But nevertheless, it's an extra. It's an expression of emunah. Traveling to the tzaddik is an active expression of emunah. The reason, besides the fact that, that this is Godel, usually it's Godel Mitzvah V'Oisa, and somebody is not Mitzvah V'Oisa. It's greater than when you're ordered to do it and you do it than when you're not ordered to do it. Except in this particular case, because the emunah in tzaddikim is truly emunah in the Kadosh Baruch Hu. We all know that emunah in the Kadosh Baruch Hu comes on many levels. Rabbeinu says, you want to find out how much emunah you have, just look at your davening. And Rabbeinu's usually, cut to the chase way of saying things. He said, if you take a niftar, if you take a person who's already deceased, and you give him another chance to daven, he says, what a daven you're going to get. Wow. He's going to go all out because he knows. It's commensurately with how much you actually believe that Kadosh Baruch Hu is standing in front of you, standing by you, on top of you, when you're davening, when you're praying, and listens to you. Commensurate to how much you believe this is how much koyach you put into your davening. It's very simple. Now, emunah tzaddikim, in its very core, is the emunah with the kesher that the person has with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, that the tzaddik has achieved through his avodah. To believe that the tzaddik has come up from heaven with a parachute, complete, bent box, new, neat, with all the brass buttons already shined, already tzaddik on the highest level, no need to do anything. That's not emunah tzaddikim. True emunah tzaddikim is emunah that the tzaddik is a tzaddik because he worked on himself until he became a tzaddik. So you believe in two things. First of all, you believe that Avodas Hashem is a real thing. He changes you. And he says about the Torah, Salsalata Ramameka. If you will learn Torah, Torah will elevate you. And the Bible says, I envy somebody who is called an El Chayid, an Ish Kosher. He says, the Ish Kosher, it looks like he's walking around like, with innards and like any inner organs like anybody else. He says, but he's a totally different Indian. So the fact is that what you believe in the tzaddik is you believe not only just in him, you believe in yourself. That when you work, when you do something, it changes you. You're also being realistic. And you realize that the tzaddik is somebody who has put himself into Avodas Hashem non-stop. And I mean non-stop, ultimate non-stop. And because of that, because of this avodah, he was sanctified from above. Whatever it is you do from below, Kadosh Baruch Hu reciprocates from above. And he has made himself to such a degree that he has sanctified himself to the point that he represents emunah, he represents the shefa, he represents the bounty, he represents in fact, tzaddik, from all the spheres, it's the only sphere that can go up and down. Every other sphere, every other midah has its place. Chesed is by chesed, and there's the gvura, then there's the tiferes, then there's the netzach, then there's the hod. The yesod can go up and down. The yesod can go all the way up to chokhmah and bina, and then can go all the way down to the malchus. Yesod, the tzaddik, on one hand, he's not even there. He's just the lens that projects to the malchus, which means he is the one that gives the malchus whatever it is that he receives from above. On the other hand, he can go all the way up and all the way down to get to the highest level and to bring it all, and that's his job, to go up and to bring down. Going to the tzaddik is an active act of emunah that what you do is for real, and what the tzaddik did is for real. The more you believe in him, obviously, the easier it is for you to do what he says and to travel to get all his tikkunim. What I'd like to do with your rishus is to tell you some stories about Rabbeinu, about his birth. As you probably well know, the Baal Shem Tov had a student who was called Reb Nachman Rodenker. Reb Nachman from Rodenker was one of the big Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov, and he was the estate manager of the Baal Shem Tov. He had the keys to the entire household of the Baal Shem Tov. There's a story that once Reb Nachman Rodenker went with the Baal Shem Tov to visit the small town that Reb Nachman's sister lived in. And the Baal Shem Tov had a pipe. He smoked a pipe. The pipe was very, very long until it reached to the floor. So the Baal Shem Tov put tobacco in the pipe, and the pipe was so long it reached all the way to the floor. Nachman Rodenker brought an amber and he laid down on the floor, arms out, legs out, and lit the pipe of the Baal Shem Tov. So his sister that saw it got very upset. She says, I understand, okay, so you're lighting the pipe to your Rebbe, I understand that. But lying on the floor like that? Right. So he told her, Rabbi told his sister, if you were to realize the Baal Shem Tov's greatness, you would think that he's a Kadosh Baruch Hu. But me, because I have a bigger das than yours, I know that he serves the Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's an amazing statement. Reb Nachman Rodenker lost his first wife, and in the second shidduch, there was a huge tzaddik, Rabbi Yitzchak from Druvich, which we'll be talking a little bit. And his sister became an almana, and he came to the Baal Shem Tov to be misiatz with him, for a shidduch for her. So the Baal Shem Tov said, yeah, sure, go ahead. I have a Talmud, Reb Nachman, or a Denker, we'll make shidduch with him. So, sure, no problem. So, right under the chuppah, they made the chuppah, and immediately after the chuppah, Rambam Denker disappeared. And needless to say, this caused a great amount of consternation, to say the least, to his wife, to his freshly, wedded wife. After a little while, her brother was which came to Baal Shem Tov, I think with his sister, and they said, "What gives? What's going on?" So Baal Shem Tov did what he did, and found out where Ondenke was, and he called him over. He says, "What? Why did you do this? Why did you make your new wife a naguna, right after the chuppah? What kind of behavior is this? Why'd you do this?" So now Ondenke said, he says, because I saw that I'm going to have a child with her, but when she will give birth to that child, and then that child is going to be the forefather of the Mashiach. He says, but I saw that she will have to die when she gives birth to this boy. So I had Rahmanas on her. Apparently she was, a young woman, relatively at least. So the Baal Shem Tov called Rabbi Yitzchak of Dubovich and his sister, and he told them. So the sister of Yitzchak of Dubovich said, if my husband is such a tzaddik, he can see that, I'm willing, and this is what he sees, I'm willing to go through with it. And so it happened that she became expecting, and before she gave birth, she cried to Kodesh Baruch Hu, that Kodesh Baruch Hu should give her 30 days with the baby. Let it, enjoy the baby for 30 days before she passes away. And it happened that way. She lived for 30 days. And Nachman Denker was extremely upset. He said it was such an esrotzim at that time. Had she asked for the Gezerah to be totally annihilated, to be totally taken away, for the decree to be totally wiped out, Mishamayim, they would have wiped it out. But she only asked for 30 days, so this is what she got. So she gave birth to a boy whose name was Simcha. And his mother passed away. His father was busy with all the businesses of the Baal Shem Tov, and then he actually went to Eretz Yisrael. So the child grew in the house of the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov saw him, and he told his daughter, Ras Odel, he told her, I like this kid. So later on, Odel, whatever it is that the Baal Shem Tov said, Odel knew. There's no extra words. Baal Shem Tov does not say extra words. So when the child grew old, she said, why did my father have to tell me that he likes this child? Apparently, supposed to make a shidduch with this child, and she married off her daughter, Fega, to this boy, to Simcha. So this is when our story comes in. That there was a Maisa by Rabbi Simcha, the father of Rabbeinu, that he went with a van, a caravan, and they lost their ways, and they all separated in all directions. And then they found the way, and he, Rabbi Simcha, was left, and he could not find a place. So he was left by himself in this entire caravan. And the more he walked, the more he lost his way. He was in Gewaltige Tsar. And he fell asleep. And as he fell asleep, somebody came to him and gave him a baby. And he didn't want. And he says, I'm lost in the way. You're giving me a baby? They took the baby away. They gave him another baby from a higher place. He didn't want. Took the baby also. Then I brought another one. And that's the way it happened for 7 times. Kept on bringing him a baby, another baby, another baby. Each one says, I don't want. The 8th time when he didn't want to take him, they told him, this is already the 8th one, was above all the 7 ones. When he didn't want, they just left the baby by him, whether he liked it or not, and they went. And then he woke up. And he saw that he's very close to a city. It's a city or a place. And he saw the city of Kharkov, which is the place of the Rav Tzaddik Rabbi Yitzchak from Druvich. That's his uncle, who is the father of the Rav Tzaddik Reb Mechel from Zlotchev. That's Reb Mechel Zlotchever is a famous Talmud of Baal Shem Tov, huge tzaddik. And the greatness of Rav Yitzchak now, the Baal Shem Tov said about him, he has the neshama of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. That's Reb Yitzchak of Druvich, the uncle of Reb Simcha. And that time was very close to the passing from this world of Reb Yitzchak of Druvich. And Reb Simcha, Rabbeinu's father, came to him, and Reb Yitzchak told him, since you're already here, I can already go away. And it's obvious, that a tzaddik, once tzaddik cannot leave this world until another tzaddik comes to replace him. And his kavana was about Rabbeinu Zal that already existed in the brain of Rabbi Simcha. Rabbi Simcha didn't understand. He says, what are you talking about? I should go away from here? He said, no. I just said, since you're already here, I can go away. That's what he told him. And then he said to him, is this already the 8th time? Rabbi Yitzchak told him, this is already the 8th time. In other words, the 8th baby. And Rabbi Simcha did not understand, what is he talking about? And then Rabbi Yitzchak told his son, Rabbi Mechel Zotchever, the great Mechel Zotchever says, now you will have from whom to express yourself. Here comes a balabais, Rabbi Simcha, was a tzaddik nister. So it's just a balabais, he's traveling. It says, now you can be ashamed. Now you can be ashamed. And then he passed away. Rabbi Yitzchak passed away. And Rabbi Mechel, his son, and that particular day, the day afterwards, he had to put on film, probably for the first time. I don't know. And they came to the cipher that Rabbi Yitzchak took from him the bottom of that film 30 days before. And every day, he filled the tefillin bottom with tears in order to put his moich into because the tefillin, the moichen, their mentalities. And the tears are the excess moichen that come out. In the time of Ptira, Michal was extremely agitated, and he said to all the people in his house, "You are witnesses, and my father, the Nifta, he was told before them, is a witness that now I'm separating myself forever from the Sichos Haran. That's it. From now on, I have no business with him." It was an amazing service. The next day was the first day that he put us on film. I was at age 13, finished with the Sichos Haran. That's it. I'm not to do with it anymore. And that woke up, that excited Reb Simcha to nth degree, and he went home. So the question is, what happened at home at the same time? And this is already a story that Reb Nosson already wrote, that once Reb Nosson was speaking with Rabbeinu's people during the time of Rabbeinu, he was still alive, from the greatness of the Kedusha of Rabbeinu. And Ras Fega, Rabbeinu's mother, was called by her own brothers, a Baruch of Mezhibosh, Fegala the Neviata, Fegala the prophetess. Both her and her mother had Ruach HaKodesh. They were able to see things and doing yichudim and tremendous tzaddikas. He heard him speaking from the holiness of Rabbeinu, and he said, "I will tell you what kind of Rebbe you have. And you will know his Kedusha, and you will know the Kedusha of his Neshamas." Because once my tzaddik Reb Simcha went, and he stayed away for 2 weeks. And he says on this particular Shabbos Kodesh is going to come. So on that Shabbos, on this Erev Shabbos that he told me he's going to arrive back home, I stood before daylight to need the Heilige Chalas for Shabbos Kodesh. When she took away Challah, she did whatever she did, whatever kavanah she did. She looked to see where he is to know if he's going to come for Shabbos. And I couldn't see him. They did another thing for Shabbos Kodesh, and I couldn't see him. And like this, it happened again, and she couldn't find him. And that night was supposed to be a mikveh night. And she didn't know if he's coming, he's not coming. Should she go, shouldn't she go? And she said she actually fell asleep, and her mother, Mas Odel, came to her with all the mothers, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. And they all told her in her dream, "Don't be sorry, your husband will come before Shabbos Kodesh." And they took her to a place of the Neshamas, and she said a tremendous light. She said, "Who is this?" She says, "This is the Neshama, the Baal Shem Tov." They took a Viter, and they showed them another Neshama, whose light was infinitely greater. And she says, "Who is this?" He says, "This is the Neshama they want to give you." And immediately she woke up. And she woke up. Reb Simcha, when he came to town, he went straight to shul. His wife went to the mikveh, he went straight to shul. There's another version of the story that says the Baal Shem Tov came to her and says, he'll come, it's okay, he's already in Tchum Shabbos, he's coming in. So she went to the mikveh, he went straight to shul. He didn't even come home. After he finished Ma'ariv, he came home, and that was the night that the Neshamas Rabbeinu came into this being in the world. We need to be Yitzah with Maaseh of Tzaddikim. Since Rabbeinu said, the Nesiyat of the Tzaddik is a Maaseh of Emunah. With the Nesiyat of the Tzaddik, you already chuck off yourself the heavy load of Apikoros, being that each and every one of us, has some traces of lack of emunah. As the Baal Shem Tov says, "V'sartem v'avadatem Elohim acherim," that the minute you stray, immediately it's considered as if that you avadatem Elohim acherim, that you're guilty of idolatry. So B'ezrat Hashem, Rabbeinu says that Maises from Tzadikim, Ye'alav V'demoichin, and especially tonight is Rosh Chodesh, and being that we can't go to Rabbeinu right now, so we took a trip to Rabbeinu. We're on this Sicha. We spoke about his Holy Mother and his Holy Father, and his father, Holy Uncle, his own grandfather, the Baal Shem Tov. So we basically toiveled in Emunah. Kodesh Baruch Hu B'ezrat should help us. First of all, will bench us all with a gewaldige Chodesh, a gewaldige year. And we should all be blessed with shefa of Emunah, shefa of bracha, begashmius and beruchnius. And B'ezrat Hashem, on Monday, Shem Yazo, we will meet again, this time to learn maybe the last shir in the exchanged children. If we are able to finish it, we'll do it. Maybe it'll take another time, I'm not sure. We'll see. I myself still don't know exactly what will be on Monday. But B'ezrat Hashem, I want to wish you all Shavua Tov and Kol Tov.